start the second half of your geometric granny square, you need to take colour B and attach it into the centre, the very start of the granny triangle. So I take my yarn and I simply join it on like this. Pull the tail tight, and that is yarn B joined on. And then you need to chain 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. You then need to work into the back of the chain. You miss the first 2 chains and you do a treble into the 3rd chain from the hook, which then gives you 2 treble. You then miss the next 2 chains in the back of your foundation row we've just begun. Miss 2 and go into the 3rd and do a treble stitch. Now you need to do a further 2 into that same chain, so you'd have 3 trebles in total in that chain loop. Miss another 2 and do 3 trebles into the 3rd chain along. 1, 2, 3, and again miss 2, 1, 2, 3 treble into the 3rd chain from the stitches you've just worked. And again miss 2, 3 treble into the 3rd chain from your last work. And again miss 2, 3 treble into the 3rd chain. Which brings you to the last 3 chain, and in that final 3rd chain you need to do 2 trebles, which means that your first row of colour B, here mine is black, looks like this. It starts with 2 trebles, butterfingers, and it ends in 2 trebles. You then need to slip stitch into that same space that you started with the center point on the triangle. And then your first row looks like this. Now here, this is where you would change colour for the next row. Or you can continue and do whatever style you want to create. So you could do alternating colours between B and C, so black and white. You could do the entire half of this triangle in black and that side in white, or whichever colour you choose. So here you need to change colour if you want to change colour for it to be alternate like this triangle here. Here I am going to continue in black on this side and white on this side to show you the different effects. So here I'm going to change colour. So before I do that, I'm just going to snip my yarn here, and then I'm going to bring in colour C, which for me is white. I'm going to find the end. I'm going to undo the knot that I seem to have. And I'm going to join colour C to colour B. I'm going to join in my white. So, simply join in your colour and then you need to chain 3 with your new colour. 1, 2, 3, and you need to slip stitch into the next treble along from the centre point. So we started and finished in the centre, and we're now going to go into the next space here. Oh dear, I've now split my stitch. Slip stitch into the next treble along, and once placed flat you will see that that 3 chain there creates the first treble of the next row, and I've anchored it excuse me, I've anchored it to the granny triangle. You then turn your work and you do 3 treble into the space here below. So that's 3 treble, 1, 2, 3, and you continue to do your 3 treble until you get to the last space here. So 3 trebles. Just going to retrieve my yarn. Move it out of the way. Oh dear. Now I'm going into the last chain space, the second to last chain space, and what I'm going to do here in this one is I am going to chain 2 trebles, and that's the end of the row, and that is going to act as the decrease to create the triangle going up to here. And so again I'm going to snip my yarn, and then I am going to join back in colour B or my black, whatever colour you are choosing to use. You could do this in rainbow stripe, so many possibilities. Join your yarn in before you turn. You need to do 3 chains again and then turn your work. You need to then put 3 chain into each cluster space all the way along until you get back to the end of the row. So it's 3 trebles in each cluster space. Now I did find that my gauge was a little bit looser for granny stripe, so I just now remember to pull my yarn a little bit tighter. But if you feel that it is massively too loose, you might want to play with changing your hook size, just dropping down half a size maybe. So then I'm putting in the last cluster space here next to the triangle, I'm going to put 2 treble. And that is purely to mirror the fact that here when I started at the end of each row there was 2 trebles, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the next treble up. And that is the next row, row 3 of the granny stripe. So again, if you're alternating colours, you need to snip your yarn at this point and join in the next colour that you're using. So I'm reverting back to white. Join that colour in. And chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn the work and go into the cluster spaces up until this last one here. I say that's the last one because that doesn't have 3 clusters at the end. That's the end of the row. I'm going to go into here and I'm again just going to put 2 stitches in there to do my decrease. Now I know it looks quite steep at the moment, but we will make that into a triangle before we finish. So the 3 trebles all the way along. 1, 2, 3. Oops. And the last one, just 2 trebles. Then at this point, oh goodness, no. So I'm just going to join in my second colour. You need to change colour here if that's what you want to do. If you're crocheting in the same colour along this part of the granny, then you can be smug knowing that you're going to have less ends than the rest of us. I'll just tighten that off and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and before I turn my work I need to slip stitch into the granny square, the treble along from where we started. That just anchors that treble along the granny triangle. Then you turn your work and you put 3 treble in each one as you go along until you get to the end. Now I'm calling that the end because there are not 3 trebles on the side here. That finishes the row. So you do 3 treble up until this space here, and then you want 2 treble to create the decrease that you've got in order to create the triangle shape. Now, as I've said, it does look quite steep, but we will finish off the steps so that it creates an actual triangle. So 3 treble in each cluster space. Until you get to the last one, and then it's 2 trebles only. And once I lay the work out flat, that is the end of row 4. And again, you need to cut your yarn if you're changing yarn here. If you're not, carry on with your smug smile. Okay, so now we're going on to row 5 of the granny stripe section of the geometric triangle. Attach in your next colour and chain 3. then turn your work, and you want to do 3 trebles in each cluster space all the way along until you get to the end of the row. And at the end of the row here you need to put 2 trebles to mirror the edge of the rows below, because it's going to make it more uniform, and then slip stitch here into this space as we slip stitch into the row below, so you know that you need to go into that next one. It's very important that you slip stitch in the correct ones to keep it uniform. So here at the start you must slip stitch both the start and beginning in the center of the triangle, and then here you stagger them by going up each row. And that's the end of row 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we snip our yarn there and we bring into play the next colour. So I'm going back to white. Join your yarn in. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and before you turn, slip stitch your treble, your 3 chain you've just created into the treble above where you just started. Pull that into place and then turn your work, 3 treble all the way along until the last cluster space, at which point you know the drill. That's 2 trebles to create our decrease. So because I'm alternating each colour on this section, each decrease will take place on a white row. It's every second row depending on what colour you use. If you're using all different colours, every second row is a decrease, and that is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th row finished. Snip your yarn, bring in your next colour. I'm going back to black. Join your yarn, chain 3, flip the work, turn the work, and 3 treble all the way to the end. And then once you get to the end, just to make it uniform, you need to put 2 treble in this space here. And then slip stitch into the treble above. Can you see how it's now creating the triangle step? So you just snip your yarn here. And join in your next colour. I'm back to white. This is row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that we are now doing on the granny stripes section of the geometric granny. Chain 3, and before you turn your work you need to slip stitch into the next treble above and then turn your work. Then 3 treble into each cluster. Now as we are so much higher up on the decreases on the rows, there are less trebles for you to put in. So here there's 3 there, and in this space there is just going to be 2. And then you snip your yarn, because that's the end of the row. Join in the next colour, row 9. Join in your next yarn, chain 3, turn your work, 3 trebles into the space, 2 treble into the last part of the row, and slip stitch into the space between the first and second treble here. There are 4 trebles because it's the granny triangle. And then you're onto your last section of your granny triangle. Snip your yarn here, then join in your next colour. You join in the next colour and you straight away turn the work. We're not doing 3 chain because we're not going up a level. And what you're doing is you're going to add in 2 treble just here, like so, and then that creates the top of your triangle. Once you've done your 2 trebles, you need to chain 2, 1, 2, and slip stitch here into the place where we have created the decrease. You then need to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and slip stitch again into the next level of the decrease. Here it's in effect where we've created the 3 chain to start the row. Want to slip stitch into there, and then what you're going to do is continue to do 4 chain and slip stitch into each of the decrease levels. And I am going to do the same, but I'm just going to quickly pause to undo my yarn tangle. Okay, I'm back in the game. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the next decrease level, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the decrease level, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the decrease level, and then finish that edge off there, pull your loop through, and congratulations, we've now completed the first section of the granny stripe. You might want to pause here and sew in your ends, or you might be a rebel like me and that's the last thing that you do. So we have completed 3/4 now. We have the granny triangle and the first section of the granny stripe, and we're now going to continue by going in the opposite direction. Now if you're carrying on with stripes, you want to alternate the stripes in the same sequence, so you're going to start with colour C, which is white. Depending on what setup you want, you need to make sure you do the same. So I'm joining in my next colour, which is white in my sequence, join it in like so, chain 3, and then do another treble into that same space, then all the way along the foundation row of the previous section I'm going to do 3 trebles into each cluster space. Until I get to the very end, and then here in this space just here I need to add in just here. I've put that in between the two trebles and where I slip stitch to the triangle. And then I'm going to slip stitch into that centre point of the triangle again. And then at this point I'm going to snip my yarn and add in my next colour, which is black in my sequence. Join in the yarn, chain 3. Before I turn the work, I need to slip stitch that into the next treble along on the granny triangle. So as I've just slip stitched into the centre point, I'm going to do it into this treble here. And then I turn my work and I do 3 treble into this space here, created between the last of the row and the 3 treble here. Now if you had sewn your ends in here, it just makes it a bit clearer what you're doing. It also means there's less to do when you get to the end, or for the gang that have used one colour on that side, they're feeling very smug as well. So 3 treble into each of the chain space along till we get to the end. Now as we've swapped the sequence on this section, every second row is now black and we will be decreasing on every black row. And so in my last space here, I'm not counting that as a full space because it's the end of the row. Here I need to do 2 trebles in order to allow myself to decrease the row. So I've done the 2 trebles there. I'm going to snip the yarn and I'm going to join in my next colour. Now I'm really intrigued as to what colours you'll all be using, so I will hope you'll tag me on Instagram so that I can see. Join in your yarn, chain 3 and then turn your work and do 3 treble to make your way. What on earth did I do there? What on earth did I do there? Join in the actual yarn rather than a scrap. Join your yarn, chain 3, turn your work and then do 3 treble in each cluster space to make your way back to the end of the row. And in the last section here, you need to put in 2 trebles. Now on the row below, that was the black, it's now swapped because we are on a different alternate. You need to slip stitch into the treble above, like so, and then snip your yarn as it's the end of the row and join in the next colour. Join in the colour, chain 3 and slip stitch that to the next treble above, just here, before you turn your work. Just pull that a bit. Slip stitch in, turn your work, 3 treble all the way to the last full cluster space. As I said, every second row on this section you will be decreasing to create the triangle shape. Now as each row progresses, each row is shorter and it feels quicker, and you are so close to finishing your square, guys, so keep on keeping on with me. So this is the last space. I'm going to do 2 treble to create my decrease. That's now the end of my row. I'm going to snip my yarn, pick up the next colour, join that in, oopsie, chain 1, 1, 2, 3, chain 3 rather, turn the work, and in each space, treble space, cluster space, treble 3. In each space between the clusters, 3 trebles is what I'm trying to say, until you get back to the granny triangle side of the work, and in here you want to put 2 trebles. You then need to slip stitch into the next treble along that we haven't slip stitched into, and then, can you see it forming now? I hope you're as excited as I am. Trim your yarn just there, join in your next colour, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and before you turn your work, slip stitch into the next treble along. Then you turn your work and 3 treble into each treble cluster space, full space. So it's 3, 3 in this one as well, and then 3 into, nope, 2 into this one to create your decrease. Then snip your work, your yarn, please don't cut your work, please don't cut your work. Add in your next colour, you're so close guys. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, flip your work, 3 treble into each full cluster space, and in the last space is 2 treble, slip stitch into the next treble along on the granny triangle, lay it flat, check it's still looking beautiful, snip your working yarn, join in your next yarn, pull your tails, three treble, 1, 2, 3. Before you turn your work, slip stitch into the next vacant treble on the granny triangle, flip your work, 3 treble in this cluster, 1, 2, 3, and then into this treble cluster you need to do 2 trebles to decrease your work. And this is the home stretch, you've nearly done it. Snip your work here. If you're changing colour, add in your next colour, chain 3, turn, 3 treble into this space, and then into this space here, 2 treble, then slip stitch into the final treble of the granny triangle. You then need to snip this working yarn, add in your last colour of the row, join in, and then immediately turn the work because we are not increasing, and do 2 treble into the final full cluster space. Then in order to finish the triangle, we need to do the chain ladder. So what we're going to do is chain 2 and slip stitch here into the decrease level. So where we've chained 3 on the start of each of these rows, we do a slip stitch. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the next decrease level. Chain 4, slip stitch into the next decrease level, chain 4, slip stitch into the next decrease level. On mine, each decrease level is white. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease into the next slip stitch level, and then to get into the first foundation row that we started, I'm just going to chain 2 and slip stitch into there, just to give me that diamond square shape. Snip your yarn and then pull that end through. Now to border it, we are going to do a single crochet into each of the chain along here in each stitch, but this is a good place for you to sew in your ends so you can clearly see what you're doing. So I'm just going to sew in my ends and then I will be back to put the border on with you. So I've now sewn the ends in on my square, and I have also added in a border. So to border the square, I'm just going to show you on this one that I haven't yet finished. You attach your border colour into any of the chain spaces between the stitches, and you simply join your colour in, chain 2 to start, and then you single crochet in each chain space along, in each stitch space, until you get to a corner. When you get to a corner, you need to put 2 stitches, 2 single crochet into the corner, 1, 2, chain 2, and put another 2 single crochet into the corner. When I got to each of these sections, I did the corner here, and again here in the join, and here. And I've just given this one a gentle block just so that it would keep its proportions here. And then that's the square finished, your geometric granny square. I do think it looks amazing finished. I love the contrast that you see the granny square here, but then I've got the stripe on this side. Now you can make anything out of this that you want, blankets, cushions. This one I'm thinking of making a little wall hanging, and I've got this stick. I was using this stick to paint my fence, to stir the fence paint, and so I decided to coat both sides and let it dry. And I think what I'm going to do with this is attach it to this, put some fringing, and that's going on my wall. So thank you very much to Hobbycraft for giving me this opportunity and inviting me to join in on this little challenge, and please make sure you tag me on all your social media so I can see if you make this square. Thank you.